So welcome to our YouTube channel and another one of our great business conversation series. It's one of the things I most enjoy doing, where we get to share some of the highlights of what's going on in the world and some lessons for you to learn within your professional services firms. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It's really important and you won't miss out on any of our content. So what are we looking at today? We're looking at leadership in an ever-changing world. There's a lot of fluctuation going on right now. We've got rising inflation, volatile markets. We've come through lockdown, something we've never experienced before. It's really, really tough for leaders out there and they need help, which is why I'm delighted that we've got Grant Herbert here today, someone who specialises in helping leaders through that with some excellent coaching and other materials. And we'll talk about how Grant helps them later today. So we'll be digging into that, all that ambiguity and stuff goes on, something called VUCA, and we'll find out what that means later on. So welcome, Grant. And just to get us started, what in your career has taken you to where you are now and leading you into what you're doing?
Fantastic. Well, firstly, thank you, Ben, for having me. I feel privileged to be able to share with your audience. Yeah, so look, I like to call it my journey of imperfection.
Lovely.
And most of what I've learnt through that journey is what I use as that experiential learning for others. So the good thing is it's allowed me to show others what not to do in most cases, not just what to do. So I started, if we go back, 40 years ago when I started my career, it was firstly in the military.
Wow.
And that was fun. And it gave me an opportunity to have some really great transferable skills out in the marketplace because I was a Leopard tank commander. So really didn't give me what I needed, but what it really did was give me some great early lessons on leadership.
Yeah.
Then from there went into a corporate career in predominantly sales and marketing and had the opportunity to climb the corporate ladder.
Nice.
And realize it was the wrong one, that I was leaning up against the wrong wall on many occasions. But then got spat out about 18 years ago now, and from a corporate merger, and that was fun. In 11 months, I went from being at the top of the tree and the golden boy to being shown the door, and that was the best thing that could ever have happened to me, because at that point I went, you know what, I'm going to start doing things to help people where I see a need. Yeah. So it enabled me to get rid of all the red tape and to take the leap and get into my own practice, which has evolved a lot over the last many years now.
Awesome. Looking forward to finding out more. So Grant, at the start of this, we mentioned there's a lot for leaders to grapple with right now. There's a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity in the world. And we mentioned a term called VUCA, which is new to me, but I did Google it. So with all this going on, how can leaders adapt? What do they need to do?
Well, firstly, let's talk about what VUCA is. VUCA is a term that stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And it was a phrase that was coined by the American military back at the end of the Cold War. And it was to describe the difference on the battlefield now that had happened. Yeah. The business world grabbed onto that and thought, that's a good acronym, we can use that. And if we look at that, you can see that it's pretty volatile out there right now.
Absolutely.
Very uncertain. And that's one of the biggest challenges for leaders. Technology was supposed to make things easier, but I think it's made it more complex. And ambiguity's been around for a while. In fact, as we went into COVID, I started calling it a super VUCA world. It was like VUCA on steroids. And now coming into this age of AI, it's even more so. So, to be honest, the biggest challenges that leaders have that I see is, instead of looking at what they need to do to build themselves as a leader and to be a leader, they look at what they need to do. And I think that's where most of us trip up, because if we don't have the skills or we don't perceive that we can do it, that creates even more uncertainty.
As you mentioned in your previous answer, technology is advancing. AI is now upon us, thanks to ChatGPT, widely accepted. In the professional services world, it's having some big impacts. The work that professionals will do would take hours that they could charge clients for. Now, arguably, a machine can do along this review later. So it's having a couple of impacts there for leaders and what they're doing in the business model, but also about how they bring forward that next generation of talent. How do they sort of grapple with that? What should they be thinking about?
Yeah, look, the big challenge here is the uncertainty that creates. And I don't mean uncertainty about how to use ChatGPT and those sort of things. By the way, AI is not new. I always tell people, if you ever used Google, you've used AI, right?
Yeah.
The reason why it's such a big challenge is people have got these stories going on in their mind about what it's going to do to my job, what it's going to do to my career. It's going to take over. The robots are going to rule the world. They won't need me anymore. And the problem that creates is that higher level of uncertainty and anxiety in a lot of cases that the leader has to navigate themselves and to be able to lead their team through as well. So the big challenge for leaders is to set a tone and an environment, starting with themselves, to embrace that uncertainty, to be able to look at things instead of in a dichotomy, which happens a lot in professional services. It either is or it isn't. But to be okay with knowing some things and not knowing others, and to be able to look at how do I need to support myself and my people to be able to make these changes. Now, I believe there's two things that every leader needs to give the people in their team, and that is support, and that support is a lot of times giving them the space to be able to make change. It's not, well, I've told you that today, so you should be able to do it tomorrow. It's giving them the space to be able to incrementally make the changes, to rewire their brain and do things a new way. And the second thing is accountability. And accountability not in the command and control sense of you have to do what I tell you to do, but in a sense that whatever they commit to being able to change and what they commit to be able to develop in, accountability to do what they say that they're going to do. But it all starts with, and we'll talk about this, I hope, what I believe a leader is. It all starts with being able to navigate all that yourself, not just worry about how you do that with your people, with your team.
Brilliant. We'll certainly get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, definitely.
So following on from what we were just unpacking there, talking about leaders, what are those core components of being a good or even a great leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. And even the use of the word good and great can sometimes challenge people because they have different connotations of what that means. And it's really about external expectations, not what it's really all about. And for me, the key thing that I want people to understand is that everyone's a leader. I ask people all the time, put your hand up if you're a leader, and people don't in the room unless they've got a team that they need to tell what to do.
Yeah.
And leadership for me starts with self-leadership. So the key to being a good or a great leader is to work on yourself, to be able to remove those roadblocks that are in the way. And a lot of those things, and I can definitely talk about this from my own perspective and my own experience, are the things that are attached to your identity. I work with a lot of lawyers and law firms, and I ask them again, I say, put your hand up if you're a lawyer, and I'm sure that some of them think, where did they get this guy from? This is a lawyer's conference, dude. But it's a trick question. The reason I ask them that is I want them to understand that you're not a lawyer. You're not an accountant or whatever it is that you do. You're a human being, and you do law, and you do accountancy and engineering, whatever it is. And it's a huge distinction because when you tie together what you do with who you are, that's the big reason why you can't disassociate from it when you go home overnight time.
Yes.
The other thing is that's really tragic is I see this at the end of people's careers. They hang around longer than what they need to because they're thinking, well, if I'm no longer a lawyer, then who am I?
Yeah.
And this is a big challenge. So firstly, realizing that your identity is not what you do. Your performance is what you do, but your identity is who you believe you are and who you believe you're not. And that's the key area that differentiates the ability for me to be the type of leader that I need to be, for you to do the same, is to work on those things first. And then look at the other skills you need to bring other people on the journey with you.
That's fascinating. There's one thing I want to dig a little bit deeper in there, and it touched on the law firm stuff, right? So one of the things that people struggle with is leaving law firms, as you just mentioned, the end of their career. They also struggle to create that legacy and put succession plans in place so the next generation naturally take on and take over and the law firm continues to thrive. Is that tied into their own kind of how they perceive themselves and the inability to let go? What is it?
Yeah, so look, obviously we're talking generally,
Yeah.
so each individual case could be different. However, my experience of working with thousands of lawyers around the world, and more importantly, my experience as a human being, is the answer to that is yes. And the whole question then of, and this once again is an area of uncertainty about myself, is to go, well, if I pass the baton to them, what does that make me? Where does that leave me? What am I going to lose if I allow others to do things that I do? And a lot of that is, determined by the conditioning that they have, by the limiting beliefs, or I like to call them false beliefs that they have about themselves, that they have created by external experiences that have happened, by things that people have said to them over the years that they've then taken on as being true. I have this, I call it a mini-me, that we all have this little voice in our head that protects us and keeps us safe. And when we are going to do something that's outside our comfort zone, then it'll remind us. Speaking in public is a really big one of that. People go, I'm going to speak in public, and they go to take that step up on stage, and the mini-me starts screaming at them and going, where do you think you're going? We don't do that. It's being able to recognise those things and work on them. So definitely it has a major impact. Yeah.
Thank you. So can anyone become a good leader?
Yes, is the basic answer. But it really depends on whether they want to become a leader, whether they can embrace that. And most of that's to do with self-worth issues of going, am I good enough to be a leader? Should I be a leader? So the answer is definitely yes. But there's some work to make some changes. There's 3 universal fears that every single human being, and that's what we are, on the planet, operates from. It's the fear of not belonging, which, by the way, is why social media is so big.
Yes.
Right. The fear of not being enough, and some might add the word good there, not being good enough, and the fear of not being loved or liked.
Yeah.
And when those fears are triggered by our thoughts, then we behave totally differently. So to get on top of that, who I am, and work on that identity and those beliefs, etc., anybody can be a great leader.
So we talked about a few buzzwords, and there's one that's almost a buzzword now, being genuine and authentic. And it's almost kind of an oxymoron in the sense that people are desperately trying to put their best self forward while being genuine and authentic and creating an image of what that looks like. But it is really important to be genuine and authentic in its truest sense. So how can people and leaders bring their true selves to work and be genuine and authentic? Yeah,
look, I totally agree with you. And it is a buzzword. And unfortunately, because it's a buzzword, I even hear people saying, authenticity is so, last year, it's a new time now. But it's vitally important. It goes back to being the real you. Now, there's a distinction I need to make here is that, yes, there are things that you need to do different, and particularly with your technical skills. You may need to be different to what your natural, comfortable style is. So you might be someone that's, very laid back, but there's times when you need to step up and be more direct.
Yeah.
However, coming out of a platform of self-approval is the only way to be authentic. Look, people's BS meter nowadays, they're very sensitive.
Yeah.
And when someone's trying to be someone that they're not, they can read that. For me, for many years, I was trying to be what everyone expected me to be. So I thought. And those expectations that I had of myself, which are once again, from those limiting beliefs and those fears that we've talked about, meant that I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. And unfortunately, that never works because it's a lot easier to be who you really are. By the way, trying to be others is really exhausting as well.
Yes.
Right? And I found many times over my life where I've tried to be someone for Ben, the next time I'm with you, I've got to remember, well, who was I trying to be when I was with him last time?
Yeah, tricky.
So authenticity, what it allows you to do, though, is just flow in who you are. You know, trying to do something the same as someone else does it is okay if we're looking at a technical aspect. But if I am thinking I need to be that person so that I'm good enough, so that I'm accepted, so that I'm approved of, that's when the problems come in. So authenticity is really, really important. I call it taking off the mask. You know, we see this once again, we talked about it before, we see this a lot in social media where people have an opinion about something, but they follow the rhetoric of what is safe and comfortable because they don't want people to judge them. You know, I call this the performance trap, where you perform to get the approval of everyone else. When you do that, if you get the approval, you feel good about yourself and that builds up your identity. But if you don't get it, you feel worse about yourself. And unfortunately, the identity is the platform for doing it differently moving forward. So what I love to help people to do is flip that round. Work on that identity, who you believe you are. Get rid of those limiting and false beliefs. Be okay with yourself. Get to a position, firstly, of self-approval, where when you look in the mirror, both physically and metaphorically, you're okay with who you are. You're on a journey, you're teachable, you're still growing. However, you're okay with who you are. And when you get to that point, perform out of that, and people will, you know, relate to you so much more. You'd know better than me. People need to know you, like you, and trust you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before they buy anything from you. They need to know the real you. So definitely, authenticity is where it's at.
Fantastic. On the journey of becoming a great leader, how important is having a mentor, a coach, or a support person, whatever you want to call it? How important is that, and what does that person look like? What do they do?
Yeah. So firstly, I'd love to say the key word that you said there is becoming. Yeah. Right. So it's not, once again, as I said, a dichotomy where I'm not a good leader and I am a good leader. It's who am I becoming? And therefore, it's about making sure that you have mentors in lots of different areas of your life. So what is a mentor? So a mentor is someone that trains you one-on-one, uses their experience. They know things that you don't know, and they've been through experiences that you're going through and that you're going to need to go through. So for me, you can have some great mentors, and you can have some mentors, because they're human beings as well, that are doing that with you out of their own uncertainty and how they feel about themselves. So for me, it's a matter of making sure that you've got mentors, you've got coaches that can help you. However, you don't have to take everything that they teach you as being empowering and useful for you as well. You know, if you've got a leader who you see is always micromanaging their people, or, you know, coming down hard on their people, that's probably not something that you want to be able to pick up. But yes, it's very important to have that. And it's very important to make sure that they provide, as I said before, those two elements of support and accountability. And the other thing that I think is really, really important, I've had a number of firms who have asked me to come in and start mentoring programs. And when they looked at it, it was all about the mentors, it was all about the mentees. No, it's about a relationship. It's about a mutually beneficial relationship. So it's not about the mentor being up here and the mentor being the one that knows everything. I learn from people that I mentor all the time. So I think that's really important. And as I said, you know, I've got mentors in different areas of my life. So I've got other people that I look up to who I see as being great parents.
Yes.
I see people who, you know, are great in the profession of the things that I do, etc. So taking little things from everyone. But yeah, making sure it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's give and take, and you're taking different things from different people.
Yeah, I really like that shared journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Grant, can you share with us any specific challenges you've had to overcome during your career, life, or with clients, and what you've learned from them and how you've used that to help, kind of drive organisational change and all the good things that you do?
Definitely. And I'll pick one thing because there's many that I could pick on my journey. Before I do that, I want us to understand, as I said before, it's not what happens to us in life, it's what we make it mean. Yeah. And most importantly, it's what you make it mean about you. And for me, that was my biggest challenge. So I had something that I found out about when I was 15 that had happened to me when I was a young baby, that when I found out about it, I made that mean something about me. I had a pity party for the next 30 years.
Wow. Okay.
And what I was doing was trying not to be rejected and, not relive those things. And I'd certainly made those things mean certain things about me, which meant that I didn't think I was good enough. So therefore, what I was doing in every interaction that I had with people, I was trying to be good enough. I was trying to make sure that you looked at me in a favourable way. Now, unfortunately, the biggest challenge with trying not to be rejected in this case is that your behaviour pushes people away.
Yeah.
When you focus on what you don't want, even the word don't, I ask people to eliminate that from their vocabulary. If anyone's got small children and you ask them, that you see them, they're bouncing up and down the lounge and you say, don't jump on the lounge. What do? They keep jumping on the lounge.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they do. So what we need to do is say, sit on the lounge, tell ourselves what we need to do. So for me, the biggest challenge came from the relationships that I had with people. I thought people were out to get me. I thought people didn't think I was good enough and, all those things. And it wasn't true. That's the opinion I had of myself. So those challenges, if we put it into, leadership, I was a terrible leader, right? You didn't want me as your leader because if you were looking pretty good at what you did, I saw you as a threat.
Okay.
So I made sure that no one ever saw you. I made sure that you didn't get the opportunities to take my job or the one above me.
Yeah.
I made sure that I didn't create strong relationships with the people that I worked with because I knew at some point they were going to leave.
You're right, gotcha.
And I see this a lot as well. What I also did is I had amazing relationships with my clients. My clients loved me. The people in the organisation wanted to kill me. And I know that, although in the roles that I had, I made lots of money for the organisation, I'm pretty sure that they sat in the boardroom and they said, I don't know if he's worth the effort. Right? Yeah. I was very good at what I did, but I was very hard to manage.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest key was relationships. And that's why working on these identity issues is the key of what I do with people. I help them to be able to be okay with themselves, to change the dialogue and the internal story that they've got about themselves so that they can then be who they need to be in every area of their life. So the relationships were the key challenge. And, as I've said, the main relationship we need to work on is the one with ourselves. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge that then went across everything that you could possibly do in a career that had its teeth in there every time.
Awesome. That's really nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries.
So it's been a really great chat, and we're coming to our final question. We ask this of all our guests, so we're no different. One of the things we really focus on here at the BD Ladder. So in your career, can you share with our audience one tip that they can use on, be it business development or marketing, basically going out and winning work and bringing clients in?
Yeah, look, definitely. And I think I've gone on enough about the key thing that I would talk about, and that's about just being you and being authentic and getting away from that performance trap. But for me, one thing I learned years ago is not everyone's like me, right? If you look around a room, people are different. I don't just mean the way they appear when you look at them. People communicate differently. People need to be communicated with differently. So I found in sales, and everything we do is sales, by the way.
Absolutely.
People go, I'm not a salesman, I do business development. I go, no, I'm not going to buy that. It's sales, right? You're selling ideas or you're selling services or you're selling widgets, it's sales. But for me, the key is being able to communicate with them in the way that they need to be communicated with. There's two boxes that need to be ticked. between each human being when you're communicating with them so that they pull down the barriers and go, yeah, I'll listen to this person. The first one is this person is like me.
Yep.
The second one is this person gets me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm someone who is chatty and needs to talk about my weekend and all that sort of stuff. But if I'm selling to someone who's not like that, they're thinking, how long is this going to last? Please get this person away from me. So being able to read others, and the key to doing that is to focus on them, not yourself. So that'd be my number one tip.
Awesome, thank you. So thank you, Grant. Thanks for coming in. I've really enjoyed our chat. I'm sure you've learned an awful lot there. I know I have. We've learned a lot from Grant's experiences about being authentic, about bringing your true self, and all these great things in the world of leadership. It's just another one of our great business conversations. I'm glad we shot that here today. There's a whole heap of these conversations and other practical tips here on our channel, so do remember to like and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you in our next business conversation. Until next time, goodbye.